Becoming a state is truly a privilege that no one really thinks about and that really goes underappreciated by everyone else, basically. Um, to the people of Puerto Rico, it's something that would really be appreciated because they're really in a big crisis right now due to its high crime rate, bad economy, and many other things. But one thing that the United States keeps asking themselves is, why should we make them a state? What can they provide to us, and all these other things? Can they help us with our bad economy too? And I believe that they will. If they get voted, they get enough votes to become a state, and that also would really help Puerto Rico to become a state too. I mean, help Puerto Rico with all the crime going on and its economy. But one major thing that really impacted Puerto Rico for the worse is that Governor Luis Fortuño is gone. He actually did a lot in the beginning to help Puerto Rico to try to come into a better spot. Because when he started, they weren't as bad with crimes, and then he kept it that way for a long time. And then towards the end is when it started becoming not so good. Because he just made some stupid things, and basically his opponent that ran against him was promising things that he could not promise at all, because he knows the real, like, what would really happen, and he was just being realistic, and the other guy was not at all, and people just went towards the other guy because of the promises he had. Another thing that really will impact it, like the Congress voting whether they become a state or not, is that Obama isn't really into it for Puerto Rico becoming a state, because he just doesn't see the point, to summarize basically what he said. And another thing also that is going to impact it is that Congress doesn't really want to make it a state either. Everybody thinks that it's a pretty easy process to make it a state, but when it's really not easy at all. It's a really hard process. And yeah, also that Obama said to try to keep it, make it seem like he's not, like, look like a good guy. Basically, he said once, the status of Puerto Rico should be decided by the residents of Puerto Rico. Basically, he's saying that they should still vote for them becoming a state, that it should be in their power whether to become a state or not. And actually, this year was the first time. I mean, not this year. Last year was the first time that the vote was actually towards becoming a state. That was the first time. But Obama thought by saying that, he meant that he was expecting like a 80% to 20%. 80% they want state, 20% don't. When the real voting was like 60 to 40. And another argument that was brought up is, why would Puerto Rico want to become a state when they're already citizens? You basically get all the rights of citizens of America who are in a state, and there's nothing really different about them. They're just not a state. And a major problem that the people of Puerto Rico are facing right now is that Congress, like I said, isn't interested. They understand that 60% of Puerto Rico want to become a state, but they just, like, right now, it's not something they want to focus on. Like, all the things that are happening right now in the United States, like the economy is probably the biggest thing that's happening right now that they are focused on. Congress believes that they should not bring the island into the Union as a state because the votes didn't convince them enough to do so. Even though they're saying that they're going to look at the votes and analyze it and all these things, they're still saying that they're not going to do it. Yeah. something that Puerto Rico will need to become a state is a transition period. By transition period, I mean time between the change from a territory to a state. So, like, the United States is going to have to send, like, American troops, maybe, to start setting up bases like they did a couple years ago that they were taken out because they were voted out. Like, petition was made, and they wanted the bases out, and they did get them out. But then they're probably going to bring those back and try to, basically, in a way, clean things up. But one thing that it's really obvious is that Puerto Rico doesn't really have any obvious advantages because it's only a territory, so Congress can do whatever they want with them. And they gave the Puerto Rico gave Congress basically all the power to do whatever they want with them. And one thing that Congress keeps looking at, which is the reason that they don't want to make Puerto Rico a state, is the really high crime rate. The crime rate was ranked number 6 in homicides compared to the United States. But actually Puerto Rico does have some things that would benefit the United States. And it would probably help both the United States and Puerto Rico at the same time. 800,000 Puerto Ricans said that they want to become a state and get all the rights states get that they don't. Congress understands that they want all these things, but they still don't want to do it. But on Puerto Rico's side, Puerto Rico says that they want the change. Like, they're not, like, if the change comes, the crime is probably going to drop down, jobs are going to go up, and all these good things are going to happen for them. They want change. They want something new. They want to get out of this awful time that is happening right now in Puerto Rico. Over 75% of the population that was in Puerto Rico lives in the United States. The rest that is left are like criminals and other things like that. People are leaving Puerto Rico because of the crime. And we want to bring them back to their home. And also another thing that's dropped in numbers by a lot is tourism. Tourism has dropped by a lot in numbers. Because it's just a bad place to be. Europe has signs up at the airports about places where they should avoid going, and Puerto Rico was one of them. Which is not a good thing for us. But to conclude, both arguments they're both obviously valid, and they do show a lot of good points on both sides. But to me, I really believe that Puerto Rico should become a state because the people are basically fighting for a change. They want to get out of all the bad things going on right now, and they want to improve. And they really want to show America that the people there are different, and they want finally peace in the island and to bring back all the people from that left their home to come back and basically continue their lives there. They're really hoping that Congress does give them the chance to become a state and show them that they are good, well, we are good people, and that things will change. Well, we need the U.S. to come and step in to help the people to basically clean up the island and help everybody. And basically, that's what they're all asking. That's what they're asking for, and that's what they're willing to do to just be happy again.